Sometimes the truth is far stranger than fiction. Today, I'm going to tell you 3 real stories that prove exactly that. But before we dive in, if you're a fan of true crime mystery stories, so please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications. Okay, let's dive into today's stories. On June 29, 2025, at about 8:20 in the morning, 83-year-old June Baxter slowly made her way down the hallway of her small home in Attleborough, a quiet town in eastern England. She had to keep one hand pressed against the wall to steady herself. June had become very frail in recent years, and she struggled with multiple health issues. But despite that, she fiercely valued her independence. She was determined to keep living alone, even if it carried risks. Years earlier, June had lived there with her husband and their beloved dog. But when her husband became seriously ill, they had to give the dog to their granddaughter, because caring for both became too much. Not long after, her husband passed away, leaving June alone in the house. Thankfully, she wasn't completely isolated. Her granddaughter lived nearby and visited often, almost always bringing June's old dog along. She also helped with groceries, prescriptions, and doctor appointments. Still, June tried not to ask for help unless absolutely necessary. That morning, as June turned into her bathroom, she slipped on the tile floor. As she fell, her leg slammed into the sharp corner of the counter. Immediately, blood began pouring from a deep cut in her leg. She cried out in pain, but no one was there to hear her. Fortunately, June had installed emergency pull-cord alarms throughout her house. There was one in the bathroom. Gathering herself, she reached up and pulled it. About 10 minutes later, she heard her front door burst open. Her granddaughter's voice echoed through the house. June called out weakly. Moments later, her granddaughter rushed into the bathroom, with the dog close behind. The wound looked awful. The granddaughter quickly found bandages and wrapped the leg tightly. Meanwhile, June sat there petting her dog, feeling immense relief. Everything was going to be okay. When paramedics arrived, they examined the wound, cleaned it, and told her it was minor. No stitches needed. Just rest and be careful. It felt like she had narrowly avoided something much worse. But the next morning, everything changed. June woke up drenched in sweat. Her heart was racing. She felt dizzy and weak. Something was very wrong. This time she didn't pull the emergency cord. She called an ambulance directly. At the hospital, doctors quickly determined she had developed a severe bacterial infection. The infection had already entered her bloodstream, which explained her symptoms. They were confused. How could such a small cut turn so serious so quickly? They began treating her with broad-spectrum antibiotics, but nothing was working. June's condition rapidly worsened. Tests eventually identified the bacteria, Pasteurella multicida, a bacterium commonly found in the mouths of domestic dogs. The day before, while June had been lying on the bathroom floor, her beloved dog had tried to comfort her by licking her open wound. The bacteria entered her bloodstream. June developed sepsis. Despite doctors doing everything they could, she passed away 1 week later. Sometimes the most innocent act of love can have devastating consequences. The woman who performed surgery on herself. On the afternoon of March 4, 2000, 40-year-old Ines Ramirez stood in the kitchen of her tiny one-room home in the remote mountains of Oaxaca, Mexico. On the counter in front of her lay a freshly killed chicken she was preparing for dinner. Her 7 children were outside playing. Her husband was away hunting deer in the mountains. Their village was isolated. No electricity, no running water, no phones. The nearest medical clinic was 50 miles away. Suddenly, Enos felt an intense, crushing pain rip through her abdomen. It was so severe she had to grab the counter to stay upright. After about a minute, the pain stopped. She brushed it off. But hours later, after midnight, the pain returned, this time relentless. She sat on a bench in the dim light of a flickering candle while her children slept nearby. The pain tore through her body, without pause. She tried not to scream so she wouldn't scare her kids. But she knew something was terribly wrong, and she knew no one was coming to help. The nearest doctor was impossibly far away. If she didn't act, she felt certain she would die. So she made a decision. She stood up, walked to a cabinet, and took several swallows of alcohol to dull the pain. Then she went into the kitchen and picked up the same 6-inch knife she had used to butcher the chicken earlier that evening. She returned to the bench, lifted her shirt, and without hesitation, plunged the knife into her abdomen. She screamed. Her children woke up in terror as she dragged the blade downward to her belly button. Then she made a second incision on the other side. Blood poured. With shaking hands, she reached inside her own body. After moments that must have felt like eternity, she pulled out what she had been searching for, her 8th child, a baby boy. She managed to cut the umbilical cord before collapsing unconscious. One of her children ran for help. Hours later, villagers arrived and found both Enos and her newborn alive. They were transported to a hospital for emergency treatment. Miraculously, both survived and made full recoveries. To this day, Enos Ramirez remains the only woman known to have successfully performed a C-section on herself and survived. Sometimes survival demands the unthinkable. In the early hours of December 3rd, 1921, 62-year-old Augusta Roblin lay awake in her daughter Henrietta's home in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She had just experienced another one of her terrifying nightmares. In the dream, she found herself standing in her daughter's basement. In front of her were 2 perfectly round, impossibly deep holes in the ground, like endless abysses. She sat on the edge of one, her legs dangling over the darkness. Then 2 men dressed in dark clothing appeared from the shadows. Without speaking, they stretched a large carpet over the second hole and covered it completely. In that moment, Augusta understood what it meant. And she woke up in horror. For over a year, Augusta had been plagued by a recurring pattern of dreams. In each dream, she would find herself somewhere familiar, a neighbor's yard, a relative's garden, and see 2 deep holes. She would cover one with a rug. Within days, the person who lived at that location would die unexpectedly. Every time, but this time was different. The dream took place in her daughter's basement, and Augusta hadn't covered the hole. The 2 men had. She believed that meant she was next. She told no one. Over the next several days, her health declined rapidly. She became weak, withdrawn, emotionally distant. Finally, 5 days later, Henrietta confronted her. Augusta sighed and admitted, "I had that dream again." She explained everything. Within 2 weeks of that nightmare, Augusta died of heart failure in her daughter's home. Whether coincidence, prophecy, or something else entirely. Sometimes the mind sees what the heart already knows. So that was all for today. Let me know what you thought of today's stories in the comments. See you in the next story.